Hi everyone, honored to be here moderating this panel. Hey guys, my name is Elias, I'm the co-founder of Kakarot. It's a ZKVM written in Cairo, the provable smart contract language of the Starknet ecosystem. And yeah, let's give everyone a minute to introduce themselves.
So hi everyone, my name is Ye. I'm the co-founder of Scroll. So Scroll is building a scaling solution for Ethereum, and so for users and developers, it's the same as Ethereum but cheaper, faster with a higher throughput. And we stick to Ethereum's value and philosophies to build a really trustworthy layer for the next billion of users.
Hello, my name is Alex. I'm co-founder of Matter Labs and ZK Sync, which is a protocol on a mission to hyperscale Ethereum in order to advance world's freedom.
Hi, I'm Sandeep, one of the co-founders at Polygon, and I contribute to the ecosystem building of Polygon, and I'm a big believer of this trustless economies that we want to build with Web3, and yeah, I work day in, day out for that.
Thanks guys. I'm gonna start with a couple of general questions, and you feel free to jump in. So my first one is, what upgrade or EIP or like item on the Ethereum roadmap are you most excited about, with in mind the transition and the rollup space? I know you had a spicy view on proto-dank sharding. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for all the rollups, we probably care most about 4844 dank sharding to make your data cheaper, because currently the transaction fee and the dominant part of every rollup is mostly data availability, because you need to post your data on Ethereum. And after 4844, there is data blob, so you have a separate mechanism for fees for posting data on Ethereum. And people used to be very, very optimistic, like, you know, after 4844, your fees can be 10 times cheaper. But I think, you know, we still have some doubt on that, because it might not be that significant, because even if you do the pricing separately, like, because there's so much demand on the data space on Ethereum, different layer 2 might compete for very few data blobs. So that's why I believe it won't be like it won't be 10 times, like maybe 2 times, like maybe, like, you know, be cheaper, but it's a gradual process after you adding more and more data blobs, and then your transaction gets cheaper and cheaper. It won't be like, you know, after this upgrade, like, you know, it's significantly become cheaper. And so, and only after dank sharding, like your throughput, your bandwidth massively improve, and then like it can increase the throughput of rollup. And before that, everything is just making transaction cheaper, and even like not that significantly, because people still need to auction on those data blobs. And another thing which I'm also very excited about is that it's the very end of Ethereum roadmap, which is ZK Snark everything. So in you know, the vision of Vitalik is that eventually people can do verification on their phone, which means, like, you know, the node won't do very heavy execution, and what they do is that only verify very small proofs. And this might require, like, you know, ZKVM being applied to Ethereum layer 1. And then, like, you know, eventually, you know, like, your technology might be Ethereum equivalent by, you know, taking whatever approach. And what we do is that currently we are focusing on building a product ready, performance enough ZKVM, which provides seamless experience for developer and users. But at the same time, the same code base is co-built with the ZK team at Ethereum Foundation to build this future for Ethereum, like, which, you know, is aligned with the roadmap for building a Ethereum equivalent ZK EVM to finally, you know, be adopted on Ethereum layer 1 and making the whole Ethereum, like, you know, every block. Imagine every block there is a very small proof, and then, like, you can use one proof to prove for, like, you know, like Ethereum transactions. I think that's also very, very exciting for us, and we are really honored to be part of this roadmap to help Ethereum build the future. So we are not just building a technology for ourselves, but literally contributing to its roadmap. Yeah.
Thanks.
I agree with Yes' take on AAP 4844. We also made some back-of-envelope calculation that it actually only extends Ethereum's bandwidth for data availability slightly, maybe by 50%. Even though it's only reserved for roll-up, so it introduces the separate pricing, it's not going to fundamentally change the limitation of the bandwidth. So there is really no specific Ethereum's milestone or planned upgrade that I'm particularly excited about. It's great that upgrades are happening. They are happening very slowly, which is probably more a feature than a bug, because it enables the permissionless innovation to happen at layer 2s, and this is something we're doing. So we don't have to wait for Ethereum. It's actually probably better for the ecosystem that Ethereum Foundation and Ethereum core team is taking much more reserved, much more conservative stance on the upgradability, because otherwise, if they were too aggressive and too pushy with specific direction, then everyone would just follow and not lead the way. And so we can lead. The one example what zk-sync has done differently, pushing the boundaries, is native account abstraction. So Ethereum could not embrace it in the EAP for 4337, because it would require changes to the core protocol, a hard fork, which is always contentious and hard to implement from security perspectives. We had a blank slate. We could do whatever from the beginning, so we chose the path of implementing it properly at the protocol level, so the account abstraction works with every Ethereum wallet, with EOAs, with MetaMask, with what most users have. You can have gasless transactions. You can pay for fees in any token. We just deploy it safe on zk-sync as well. And all of that is also available to obviously in to much higher degree to smart contract accounts, which I totally believe are the future and should be the future if we want to get to mainstream adoption. So my take is Ethereum is moving slowly, and that's great.
Yeah, I'm thinking, do I have anything other? You already mentioned very smart things about that, so do I have anything else to say? But I think what Alex also said, that Ethereum is improving slowly, and which is more of a feature than a bug. And the ecosystem around Ethereum, layer 2s and multiple other application and protocol builders are growing the ecosystem in that direction. And with 4844 yesterday also I was saying that I fully agree with Alex that it's not going to increase the throughput for this data availability of Ethereum by that much initially, but I also feel that anytime these upgrades come, they open up more design spaces for other things to happen. So I'm also hoping that with with Ethereum, this data availability, it will open up the design space. Like who knows what all is going to come up, coming up with that. But obviously, 4844 capacity, we don't believe that it's like even with full sharding in Ethereum, it will be good for the entire world's data availability. There will have to be more solutions, and with ZK specifically, the ZK solutions like all three protocols here are building, they are not that dependent on that critically dependent on data availability for everything. I was mentioning yesterday that it is very use case specific. I would say that for high value DeFi, and maybe my panelists, fellow panelists disagree with me here, but I feel that you need Ethereum level data availability for very high value use cases like DeFi and all. For everything else, you can use like cheaper data availability. So, yeah.
Cool. Thanks. Right. So I'm gonna go into more individual questions on things that might interest you. So I know EA, you're big on credible neutrality. So I have a question about how it's very hard, at least the whole roll-up space is becoming more and more saturated. And my belief, you might disagree, is that the more team you have, the more cross-pollination and organic innovation you have, the more products you have, and in the long term, you have more users. So how do you navigate this trade-off between having to incentivize having more teams and having stickiness to them, but also remaining credibly neutral? Because I know this is kind of the thing you keep pushing forward.
Yeah. Just to add some color to this. So I think one philosophy we have might different from other layer 2s is that we don't want to kind of just getting project to build on top of us by giving a lot of like money to kind of let them to build on top of it, because we don't believe that's really sustainable. And also like especially in early stage, it can be perceived as like you are picking up which team as a winner. So think about Ethereum, like why there are so many layer 2s exist. It's because like currently if you look at Ethereum Foundation, they don't pick up which layer 2 is their favorite, but they treat everyone to be the same. And then like I think that makes this landscape become really competitive, because everyone want to compete to be the best protocol on top of Ethereum. So that's why like we believe the same. Like if you kind of your foundation gives special support to certain applications, that will be pretty bad in the long term because it's not sustainable. And there might be like, imagine like Ethereum Foundation announced one day like I like Aave, and then like every other lending protocol on top of Ethereum will be feel unhappy because they will feel unfair. And we don't want this to happen. Like as a chain, like you need to remain credibly neutral and remain community driven, and then like really make your chain's growth become more organic. Like because if you think of so that's something which we believe and we saw from the history of Ethereum. So what we are doing to really make this happen is that from early beginning we have a set of like principles and rules like we need to follow, like like which, for example, like making some topical like discussion, like getting all the wallet on scroll talking about like why kind of abstraction, what they are building is way more neutral than picking up your favorite team just talking about yourself. So that's something like there are different ways, different strategies for how you can make the same goal become the execution become way more neutral. And also as a chain, they are very we limit ourselves to a set of things that we can do and we can't do. Like even for this kind of layer 3 SDK thing, we want to empower more teams, like from external, give this opportunity to other teams that because basically a stack is just a fork of a chain, making that slightly more modular. But what we want to do is that we don't want to provide such thing as a service, because imagine like if you keep doing this, you might become a technical provider just for I build this technology. Like it's kind of like outsourced, not like you are building a chain, you are remaining sticking to some principle. So we want to empower other teams, like building like maybe forecast and build some scroll SDK, scroll laser, whatever you call that, and you can do that. But we won't like just spend a significant engineering effort to kind of just for this effort, because we believe that we should give the opportunity to other people, like what Ethereum is doing, to give this building a layer 2 to other people, and you see great successful. And so that's something like we want to do, trying to give more opportunities, more things like we can do, doing subtraction in our like in scroll to empower more people in the community. And that's one thing, like trying to give more opportunity, trying to empower your community. And second is that trying to build a really stable tech, because like make the developer experience become really good, and then developer like you. And then if developer like you, then you kind of gradually grow your ecosystem. Like for example, supporting more hackathons, workshops in different regions, especially exploring some regions which Ethereum don't have a large community. And really, we are growing this kind of Web3 or Ethereum ecosystem as a large pie, like as what every other layer 2 is doing. We don't want to just compete in this zero-sum way. We want to play a more like infinite game. We want to bring the users that is outside Ethereum to this ecosystem and really serve those people. I do believe there is still a large demand. Like the whole crypto space is still very small, and we want to kind of build communities like in the corner of the world where Ethereum community even don't have great reach there. So that's a way like we kind of make this ecosystem bigger. And yeah, that's like building the tech, develop the community, and give more opportunity to other parties instead of just building everything yourself.
Right. Thanks. Anyone want to jump on that, or?
Yeah, I can add. Like I think Ye mentioned this very in a very beautiful way on how to build the organic communities and all that, and it's very great. I was just evaluating while you were saying that what is my philosophy on this, and I have for the longest time believed that the layer ones, like sometimes I joked about this also. I said that layer ones needs to be built like a cult, but layer twos needs to be built like community-owned businesses. So I believe that, because maybe my focus is extremely deep on getting the adoption, and there is a possibility, there is a world where, and this could be the right thing, like, actually, that we are so early in Web3 that it's going to take a lot of organic time, and it's going to be like really 3 to 5 years when you really start seeing real organic traction, organic adoption. But like, as a person, obviously Polygon ecosystem is very big, so we can't do much. I mean, we can't look like, completely, push it only ourselves. But as my role, as I call myself as community manager of Polygon, and that too, like, being a builder, like, when I say community, I mean more of like community of builders who are building not like organic Web3 applications, but I want them to build Web3 businesses. So, and because I am a builder like that, so I think they can also relate with me more. And my thesis is that as a personality, because it's always like somewhere driven by something. Like Ethereum is very decentralized, but Ethereum, you can say, is kind of like DNA of like Vitalik and some of the core people. So in my case, I am someone who, instead of waiting for something to happen organically, I would try to, create or catalyze things. So maybe in that sense, my philosophy of growing ecosystem might be slightly different than what you're saying. But I totally see what you are saying, and actually, I always also keep saying to everybody I meet that truth always lies in the middle. So we also, with Polygon governance and all that, which we are recently doing, we also want to have like initiate that, or kind of have that part of the community which is more like more organic and all that. Because we have done, as Polygon, we have definitely done a lot of like I call it adoption hacking, like trying to fuel that adoption into this. And I think many of you guys might have seen what Grab is doing here in Singapore. They launched a wallet, and that wallet, like, people keep saying that, oh, this enterprise adoption, what is going to happen here and all that. But if you see now what Grab has done, it's not like a NFT wallet and they are just playing around with it. This is basically NFT based stablecoin, which is actually being done in close supervision and regulation of MAS here. So instead of launching a ERC20 stablecoin, what they have launched is, and this is still not announced. So this is what I understand from one of their executives, is that they are doing these NFTs as dollar bills, like $5, $2, $3, and all that, and which people can use actually to buy stuff. And these are the kind of things I want to see. Maybe one of these applications suddenly catalyzes this thing. Like, one could argue, like, for example, for mobile also, some of the applications were kind of key applications. If you go back to people with 1995, 99, 2000, they will say that Google was the killer app of, now we don't realize, but Google was the killer app of internet. Before that, internet was like, what we have is Web3. Nobody cares about it. Some niche people, do these events with, 20 people audiences at like 50 people. But then suddenly with Google, it exploded. So my thought process is that maybe let's try to do something to, catalyze that.
Thank you.
This is a really interesting topic, so now I also want to comment.
I was saying truth lies in the middle. This side now is.
No, I look, the format of the event, actually, like, we are having much higher quality conversation than what we would have at like huge event with thousands of people. So I love the yes principle position on being firmly committed to credible neutrality. I really liked what Sandeep just said about the L2s being more like community-owned businesses. I think what's interesting when you say like we're committed to credible neutrality, you can only talk on behalf of the team, of a team some core team that built this protocol, which already inherently suggests like some higher degree of centralization, because there is someone who personally or collectively like makes some commitment. What I think we need to get eventually is to truly decentralize, like to become like Ethereum, in the sense that there is really no single entity who can or cannot violate the credible commitment, but it's really community owned. And then there are many different parties, many different stakeholders, if you want, people who like have some ownership, have some contribution, have some say, some loud voices, some less loud voices, some smart voices, some thought leaders inside this community who often disagree with each other, and they go in different directions, and they push for different projects or different initiatives. I think the earlier we get to this stage, the sooner we will reach this true Ethereum culture of credible neutrality and decentralization. It's hard. It's hard because like there are certain things that are hard to decentralize too early. If you do it too early, then you're gonna stall the evolution of your ecosystem. In particular, the technological part, like building the core protocol itself. You see what happened to Bitcoin. Like it's super decentralized, but it's basically ossified, stopped innovating. The protocol is in a dead end, and it's hard to imagine that it's improving. I think what's easier to decentralize is this community aspect, the curation of the like who you're gonna promote. Like, why do we need to promote anyone? So what we yesterday we announced that we're shutting down our ecosystem webpage run by Matter Labs. And switching to community-based approach, where the operator started hosting the list of projects and curating, and we invited all the other community members to build their own websites, catalogs, whatever. Like, I think this is the way we should be all going, and it's gonna be a gradual way. It's not gonna be fast.
All right. So we have time for a last question. I didn't expect the credible neutrality, but I think it's one of the biggest subjects around rollups and also the current state of rollups. So it was important to address it. I have one question on interop between L3s, because I know our two panelists here are big on L3s. Could also talk about, okay, let's try and do a 20-second just jump on Alex. Among those panelists, yours like rollup solution has gone for a bit less compatibility with Ethereum, but a bit more, let's say, freedom to do your thing. How do you feel currently about, like, would you argue ZK Sync L2 is a type 4 ZK VM?
I think this this type 1, type 4
Not so important.
Is blurring, and eventually it won't matter at all.
Okay.
It mattered in the past, and you definitely need to extend Ethereum. Like, you don't want to stick to EVM only. You want to start with compatibility and maybe equivalence, and then later switch towards extensibility, where you can take Rust programs and deploy. And
okay.
So
Then maybe that leads to my question. Ye mentioned that scroll equivalence might lead to it being completely equivalent with Ethereum and like be in the roadmap of the final stage. And you're maybe talking about replacing, extending. So is that kind of like a orthogonal choice, like fourth choice, between powering layer 1 as your ZKVM versus innovating on the Halo rather in the fractal scaling and so on?
I think the innovation leads us to convergence, that we're seeing more powerful zero-knowledge proof systems and more powerful prover technologies that will enable us to execute arbitrary computation. If you want to run Ethereum, bytecode or source code compatible, you can do that. If you want to run Rust, existing libraries, existing cryptography written in other languages, you can also do that. It's like there will be no strict difference. We will always have some legacy compatibility with old systems. I mean, there are people who run COBOL programs these days, and like they're really highly paid because there are only a handful of COBOL programmers. But they run mission critical systems in banking and enterprise, and like it will remain. Like EVM as the virtual machine will remain for a long time as a lingua franca of blockchains. but we will transcend that.
All right, cool. And then I guess last question, Sandeep. You mentioned having catalyzers, and I guess one of the biggest enabler in Web3, at least in my opinion, is composability. The idea that any app is open API to anyone. With the new projects of having many L3s, maybe not L4s, but let's say fractal scaling, and this idea of having even now archipelago or constellations around the L2s like ZK Sync with ZK Stack and Polygon also. How do you view inter L3, L2 to L3 messaging? Like,
from our side, we don't believe. I would say, like, I mean, again, like, this is the stronger statement, but we don't believe in L3s that much as of now. Like, and this is an evolving thought. Like, you know, our thoughts are not ossified at any snapshot. But right now we don't see the need or the belief in layer 3s. We believe that with ZK, everyone can be a layer 2, and you can have ways to aggregate proofs for multiple rollups where they can, instead of every one of them paying the fees to Ethereum, like you can have aggregated proof to Ethereum, and hence we have kind of announced our Polygon CDK, which is like a free GPL tool for all of our a consolidation of all of our ZK efforts, and anybody can use it to build their own ZK. And then we are also proposing a kind of like aggregator layer for these layer 2s, where you can all of these proofs can be aggregated and posted on Ethereum in an aggregated way. And these chains then with these proofs can kind of interact with each other by providing their entire state proofs that they are sending to Ethereum. They can also use those state proofs to interact and interoperate with each other. So as of now, like, this is, again, I'm saying that this is not a ossified thought, but this is what we are going ahead with currently, is to, first of all, like, I think first way is the ZK chains have not, like, this is again like what we are talking about layer 2, layer 3s. We are talking like 2-3 years later situation. Right now, all of us have a ZK chains, and those chains have pretty high amount of capacity for those chains to be first properly utilized. But apart from that, just to provide the other developers to be able to build their own ZK layer 2s, we build this CDK. But in the long run, we see that these proofs or these layer 2s collaborating with each other, combining their proofs together, and then sending one proof, and then using those proofs for interop also. That's what, like, we are thinking currently, but obviously more focused on providing these ZK layer 2 stacks for everyone, and also having the core like ZK EVM chain that we have, and converting our Polygon POS chain into a ZK Validium, and having decent ecosystems over there. That's I think is the first stage. But what was the original question? I forgot the question itself.
It was
about the layer 3s and layer.
There was a trade-off between composability and more scaling.
Oh yeah. So I was just saying, that's what I was saying, that using these ZK proofs, shared ZK proofs, you can actually have this cross composability.
I think it's interesting because I thought initially that L2s were going to scale vertically, and then each have this kind of like siloed L3 and fractal scaling ecosystem. So now that you're saying about the way you see Polygon scaling can be lots of L2s, kind of like horizontal rather.
Yeah. And providing them the sovereignty, like, to all the developers. This is where, like, I was talking about what Ye was saying, that, the truth always lies in the middle. So, let's say in terms of growing the ecosystem, we have organic plus, like, these catalyst approaches, because we have a lot of people in the ecosystem who are working, external people also go in the ecosystem. But then you also have a very high element of sovereignty for the people, where they can do what they want to do. But as Polygon Labs, we are trying to, kind of catalyze wherever we can. So it's the similar kind of thing with technology also.
Right. Thanks to our panelists. Thank you, everyone. That's it. If you have questions, catch us outside, and have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.